My name is Father Patrick, founder of Christian.art, and today we are in one of the most iconic buildings in the world.
The Palace of Westminster, a building unlike any other, is the beating heart of British politics. For centuries, these walls have witnessed some of history's most consequential moments, with decisions made here shaping the lives of millions, both in Britain and far beyond its shores. It is the seat of power, and it was designed to make that power visible.
What is truly striking about this palace is that its language of power is unmistakably Christian. Saints look on from stone and glass, biblical words are set into walls and floors. Christ, angels and symbols of faith fill corridors and chambers. The art and architecture here remind all who walk these halls that earthly authority ultimately stands in relation to the one true power, God. And one architect above all others believed that profoundly, Augustus Welby Pugin, whose radical vision for the Houses of Parliament placed faith firmly at the centre of a design that still speaks to us today.
When people think of the Palace of Westminster, they think of the Houses of Parliament, of politicians and the making of laws. But that is only part of the story. What stands here is not one history, but three: a monastery, a palace, and a parliament, all layered on top of one another. It all began with the church, the Abbey of St. Peter, founded over 1,000 years ago. Here, Benedictine monks lived lives of prayer, discipline and work, following the rule of Saint Benedict. Then, in the 11th century, Edward the Confessor, a deeply devout king, came to the throne and chose Westminster as his royal home. Beside the abbey, he built a palace binding kingship and worship together in one place. He is even depicted in the Bayeux tapestry being carried to his burial here. Today, his tomb still lies at the very heart of the abbey.
I'm standing here outside Westminster Abbey, and the story is already written into the landscape around us. Just over there stands Big Ben, a beloved symbol of modern Britain. And right beside me here are the cloisters of the abbey. As Edward the Confessor and his successors expanded this site, the church did not fade just merely into the background. No, it grew hand in hand with royal and civic power, sharing the very same spaces. Bishops were not only spiritual leaders at the time, they were the lawmakers, the advisors, and the architects of the nation's future. Here, on sacred grounds, the foundation of British politics were laid.
In 1834, everything changed. A catastrophic fire tore through the Palace of Westminster, destroying centuries of history. The blaze burned through the night, drawing huge crowds and artists who rushed to capture the spectacle and the chaos. In the ashes, Britain was forced to ask a question: what should take its place? This was the height of the British Empire. Power stretched across continents. But power alone was not enough as a brief. The new parliament had to express something more. Thus, a national competition was launched. 97 designs were submitted. The winning vision, by architect Charles Barry and designer Augustus Welby Pugin, proposed something unprecedented: a Gothic cathedral-like seat of government.
What Barry and Pugin proposed was highly unorthodox for a government building of their time. Elsewhere, power was being expressed through very different architectural styles. The Capitol in Washington was entirely neoclassical. The Palais Bourbon in Paris echoed the architecture of a Greek temple. Even London's own Tower Bridge, with its avant-garde steel frame and industrial engineering, embodied the spirit of modernity. Any of these would have felt contemporary to Victorian eyes, and any could have served as models for the new Houses of Parliament. But instead, it reached into monastic memory. Christian symbolism and sacred narrative, the neo-Gothic style, emerged. So why? Well, not simply because it was beautiful, but because it meant something. Barry and Pugin deliberately wanted to make clear that all earthly power is ultimately accountable to God.
While Barry was the overall architect and master planner, Pugin was the architect of its meaning, shaping the building's inner language. For him, Parliament symbolized something of the sacred, the fusing of earthly power and heavenly power, and he made this visible in every detail of the building. From its halls and corridors, from paintings of Christ and Moses, to mosaics of saints and psalms written into the floors in Latin. The whole building communicated like a cathedral, and by no means by accident, with sanctuaries, pews and tall ceilings adorned with rich carvings and architraves.
The building is quite literally covered in intricate detail, but I just want to point out a few. So running around the exterior are rows and rows of statues depicting monarchs, saints and historic figures from Britain's past. Among them is Saint Peter, for example, on the side closest to the bridge, easily recognizable by the two keys that he holds, symbolizing one key to unlock the authority in heaven and the other for all earthly authority. Then, moving up the Elizabeth Tower to Big Ben, Latin inscriptions repeat on 3 levels, all the way from its base to the foot of the clock face. Domine salvam fac reginam nostram Victoriam primam. O Lord, save our Queen Victoria I, the monarch at the time of its unveiling. And if we continue around to Victoria Tower, we find yet more statues, including patron saints of the British Isles and figures from the Old Testament, and tons of angels. I, of course, think that this is incredible, and so would probably anybody who believes in God. But what, in 2026, do these Christian symbols still mean to those who walk the corridors of the building every day?
Welcome, Father Patrick.
I've come to meet the Lord Speaker, the Lord John McFall of Alcluith, a Christian who has spent almost half a century working within these walls.
Father Patrick, you're most welcome to the Palace of Westminster. And when I say Westminster, it's the minster in the West. So the Christian tradition has been embedded here right from the very beginning.
Yes, and I think the point you make of the minster in the West, the architects Barry, Pugin, Scott, they all wanted to embed the building with some Christian aspects.
Yeah, well, as you come in the entry to the Palace of Westminster through St Stephen's Chapel, that was where the House of Commons met until the Great Fire in 1834. And when we come into the central lobby, on the 4 walls, there are the 4 saints, St Andrew, St George, St David and St Patrick. From the first step into this palace, one can see that faith and politics are linked together. And whether we're in our Grand Committee rooms, in the Moses room, with Moses taking the tablets down, there's always an element of faith there.
I could not help but notice when I walked into the room that behind me there is this mirror. Is this designed by Pugin as well?
It is, yes. And if you look at the inscription, is "Fear the Lord." So I can't do my business on a daily basis without fearing Judgment Day.
My lords, I have to notify the House in accordance with the royal...
As part of the Lord's Speaker's daily duties, he walks in procession to open the day's business in the House of Lords, a tradition with prayer at its centre.
Every day about 2:20, I engage in the Lord Speaker's procession with the mace in front of me and black rod behind me. When we get to the chamber, I bow to the cloth and then announce a certain Church of England bishop will lead us in prayers. The bishop starts the prayers with the Our Father and then goes on to pray for the king and pray for the country. It's private, there are no television cameras on. So there is a holy element to it.
Even in a secular age, our hearts seem to still be drawn to sacred architecture. There is a quiet intuition maybe within all of us that buildings like these whisper of something greater than ourselves. And Augustus Welby Pugin understood this. He poured his blood, sweat, tears and his whole soul into the building, yet he never lived to see its completion. And there is maybe something profoundly Christian in that, giving our life to a work whose fulfillment we may never witness. My favorite detail remains the chime of Big Ben, the Westminster Quarters, attuned to the words of, "O Lord my God, be thou my guide." And that chime feels like Pugin's final song to us, a prayer, a reminder ringing out across the city of London to keep God as our guide. Britain and the West may now stand in a post-Christian landscape with many voices, many religions and beliefs represented within the walls here across the river. Yet, its foundations remain unmistakably Christian. And Pope Benedict XVI spoke of this in 2010 when he addressed Parliament here.
The angels looking down us from the magnificent ceiling of this ancient hall.
In his speech, he drew attention to all the angels in the architecture and reminded us that God still watches over earthly power. I felt this powerfully at the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II as she lay in state in Westminster Hall. On her coffin rested the imperial state crown, and at its summit, a cross. Crowns may rise and fall, nations may change, but there is only one true cross, the cross of Christ. And it is there and only there in the true cross that authority finds its true meaning, and every human life, its hope.
I think this iconic building speaks to many, many people. At any time you come down, any day of the week, including Sundays, there's thousands of visitors around the palace. This is a treasure which is timeless and priceless.
Lord Speaker, thank you so much for your time today and for inviting us here into the palace. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, so please like and subscribe for more. And also join us this year for our very first Christian Art Conference here in Westminster. Stay tuned for more information coming to you soon.
And if you haven't already, head over to www.christian.art and sign up to receive our daily email where I pair the Gospel reading of the day with a work of art and write a short reflection, exploring beauty to grow closer to God.